best self if we are neglecting ourselves. And so those three components of healthy minds, healthy bodies, and healthy work, we really have to focus on each one of those. And so there are two components to a healthy mind that I really see are important. And one of those is mental wellness. And the second one of those is social wellness. And so let's dive into each one of those. And I should also issue a disclaimer that on my whole presentation today, I am not a subject matter expert. I do not have a psychology degree. I do not have an exercise science degree, and I certainly don't have a degree in management. I'm a communications professional. And so the lens that I'm coming at this from are my own personal experiences backed up by some source material. But it's what has worked for me. And so hopefully you can glean some tidbits from that as well that you could apply to your own life and your own work. So there's two categories of healthy minds: mental wellness and then social wellness. So let's first look at mental wellness. This data is all from a recent study that was conducted by the Harris Poll on behalf of the American Psychological Association. It was a stress snapshot that was done in January. So the data comes from the month of January 2021, just last month. And so you can read those bullets. I'm not going to read them all to you.
Hey, Jenny.
Hey.
I'm still on the first slide. Is it moving for anybody else?
Oh. Hang on, let's see.
Same for me, first slide still.
That is weird. Okay, it's telling me. All right, let's see.
It sort of froze when you tried to go to full screen and didn't change from there.
Oh, okay.
But now we saw that.
Yeah.
All right, let's just go from this mode then. I apologize.
No problem.
Y'all were too kind to not interrupt me. You would have just let me gone through all 27 slides without.
Yeah, you don't even need the slides.
Letting me know.
Great.
Okay. All right. So you got the picture that I'm not a subject matter expert. I'm giving you an overview. We're going to talk about healthy minds, bodies, and work in the context of 2021. And so really those two components of healthy minds, we've got mental wellness and we have social wellness. Okay, so let's talk first about the mental wellness component. And just let me make sure, are we on slide 3? Is everyone with me? Yes?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so here's the data that I was referencing just a moment ago. The Harris Poll on behalf of the APA did a study. They surveyed Americans. So this is just people in the US. And this is data from January 2021. So just about a month ago, talking really about stress and stress levels of Americans. And so you can see here that these numbers are significant. 84% of adults that were surveyed reported feeling at least one emotion associated with prolonged stress in the prior 2 weeks. So that would have been in the first part of January. Those most common feelings: anxiety, sadness, and then anger. And then approximately 2 out of 3 people, so 67%, said the number of issues that America is facing is also overwhelming to them. So when you think back to kind of where you were 6-7 weeks ago, January was tough, right? I mean, we started off a new year still in an international pandemic. There was a riot on the US Capitol, our nation's capital. Then we had severe weather across the country. Of course, social and racial issues are still pressing. And then we had a transition of power from one administration into another. And so lots of things going on in the month of January that can certainly have impacted the news cycle, have impacted our daily lives. And so I can relate to these feelings personally. I can relate to feeling anxiety, to feeling sadness, and feeling anger. Just that whole roller coaster of emotions has certainly happened to me. And some of you are nodding and shaking your heads that, yeah, you felt some of those things too. And this isn't new for January 2021. All of 2020, for the most part, we saw Americans with higher levels of stress, and just with the ongoing pandemic, shifting the way we have to work, shifting the way our children learn, shifting our social lives. And so lots and lots and lots of change. And certainly that all has the ability to impact our mental wellness. So what are some things that you can do? Well, number one, you can check in with somebody that you trust. And that may be a colleague. It might be a friend or family member. But if you have the access and the means and the ability to seek help from a professional, then certainly a professional mental health, mental wellness counselor is a great avenue for you. And don't be afraid of doing that. Number two, participate in employer sponsor programs. So as Sophie mentioned, I work at the University of Southern Mississippi. And one of the wonderful benefits of working at USM is that we have an employee assistance program, which offers connections to things like mental health counseling, financial resources, moving resources, those types of things. And so if your company offers something like that, number one, you may not know about it if it's not widely publicized. So look into that. Number two, if it is something that's offered, you may be able to reap a variety of benefits from it. So look into that if you don't even know it might exist. And then number three, if you're not the person that you may not be struggling with anything, everything may be rosy in your field. But if you see others struggling, whether that be a colleague or a family member or a friend, the best thing to do is to respond with empathy, and then of course encourage them to seek help. So those are some tips for mental wellness. The APA also gives tips for managing stress. And I'm not going to read this to you, but if you want to screen capture it, feel free. But these 5 tips come from the APA. And for me personally, in the field that we work in public relations, communications, and marketing, we are constantly inundated, at least I am, with news alerts, Google alerts, monitoring service emails, pop-up notifications on our phone. I'm not the only one, right? Okay. And so those types of things absolutely have an impact on our stress levels. They have an impact on the way we view our day, the way we react to things. And so for me, this number one tip, taking a break from the news and social media, has been such a benefit for me. Just being able to step back and to actually manage when I look at those things and when I don't. Because if not, you're just constantly inundated. I mean, my iPhone, it's my trusty 7 that I have yet to upgrade. But the notifications alone on my iPhone are constant. And then with TV, and then with social media, Twitter feeds, Facebook, all of those things, it just compounds. And so feel free to take a look at all of these tips. But for me, as a PR and a communications person, the taking a break from the news and social media has been a big benefit to me, especially in the last 12 months. So that second component of a healthy mind is that social wellness aspect. So we talked about mental wellness very briefly, focusing on stress primarily. And certainly there are lots of other factors as it relates to mental wellness. We just don't have the time to dive into those. But the social wellness component, if I had a marker and could just scribble all across the slide, I would put in big bold letters, social isolation. Because those of you that are extroverts and those of you that have missed like seeing people and being with people and going to your pram meetings and going to grab a cocktail or an after work early dinner, those are things that we by and large are not doing and have not been doing since the onset of the pandemic. And so that social isolation is a real factor and is a real thing that some of us have experienced in the last year. even for my introverts. But what are some things that you can do to help with your social wellness, certainly in this time? Number one, spend quality time with your family and friends, even if that's not in person. You know, one of the things I have found to be beneficial is FaceTiming with folks. I know I have a lot of screen time because of work, but FaceTiming over silly things and mundane things has proven to be really helpful. I'm not sure how many of you Marco Polo, but Marco Polo honestly has probably been better for me than FaceTime, just because I can control when I want to consume that information, and I can control like the length of it. And it doesn't feel laborious. It doesn't feel like I have to be in an ongoing conversation. We can pick up the conversation on Marco Polo and then we can put it back down again. And so that has been really effective, especially if, you know, certainly if you have a hectic schedule. And if the only time you get alone is super, super early in the morning or super late at night, that may not be the best time for a FaceTime with a friend. But you could polo someone. And so that's been also a way for me to keep in touch with those friends that I'm physically distant from and cannot travel to see right now. Number two, building and nurturing real life face-to-face social connections. This is incredibly difficult, right? Because we're not having those social gatherings. We're not having holiday parties or events. Actually, the very last party that I went to was the last weekend of January of 2020. And I was in Jackson for an engagement party for some dear friends. Actually spent the weekend in Jackson, and, you know, COVID and a pandemic was not even in our minds. And that is I just have such wonderful, fond memories of that, because that's the last time I really got to see people at a party. And that was just fantastic. But building those connections right now they're incredibly difficult. And I didn't bother, I should have, but I apologize for not going back and pulling the source so I could direct you all to the article. But earlier this week I read where actually interacting with strangers has proven to be helpful for people that have been socially isolated. So if you're going to the grocery store, like if you're not using a grocery pickup or delivery service, you're going to the grocery store, actually talk to the cashier, talk to the employee at the grocery store, because even talking to that stranger can help you from feeling that depth of social isolation. It seems simple, right? Just say hello to a stranger. And then the third thing is reflecting on experiences and expressing gratitude and happiness. In a professional setting, I keep a box of note cards in my desk. And so writing a note, even if it's not a thank you note, even if it's just a checking in with you note, has proven to be beneficial for me, but certainly it's beneficial for the recipient as well. And so that's a practice. I've done that for several years, and I find that to be such a benefit to me as an individual. And I think if that's not something that you already do, I would encourage you to try that out. And this data does come from the CDC. They have a workplace health and promotion resources page. So you can look that up yourself on the CDC site. So now that we've talked a little bit about healthy minds, let's talk a bit about healthy bodies. Because if we're going to be mentally well, we also need to be physically well, so that we can show up at our jobs, our places of work, even if it's virtually, and do good work. So let's dive right into it. And I'm going to start off with a personal experience. You see me, there's me right there on the middle of the screen. It's a really wonderful before and after. I'm going to tell you a story. In 2014, my husband and I moved to the coast. I'd never lived on the coast before, and I felt very socially isolated and didn't have a lot of friends. I was meeting colleagues and meeting people through work, but I didn't have that social network. I didn't have a gym. I'd actually never, ever been a gym member before in my life. I didn't know how to work out. I didn't even know what a dumbbell was. Let's just be honest. And so I just got to a point, like mentally and physically, where I just needed to make a change. I just needed to do something. And I didn't really know even what that looked like. I just knew I needed to do something. I needed to do something for my long-term health and wellness. And so this local gym called Brantley Ellison Fitness, they were doing this 28-day challenge, 28-day fitness challenge. And I had no idea what to expect. But I said, you know what, I've got to do something. And so I signed up for it. I was vulnerable enough to sign up for this 28-day challenge. And I thought, you know, if I lose a few pounds doing the challenge, great. Then we'll see where that takes me. And so I did the 28-day challenge. I stuck it out for 28 days. And you all may think like, oh, that's not even a month. Well, 28 days is a long time when you're trying to make better food decisions and when you're trying to be more physically active when you don't even know what you're doing. But I built a social network of people that were doing it with me and people that were excited about trying to get healthier. And that was a really vulnerable time in my life. And so I put these 3 items here, 3 components to healthy bodies. Number 1 is activity. We've got to be willing to do the physical activity. Number 2 is potential. Like you've got to see the potential in yourself to be able to do those things. And number 3 is vulnerability. You've got to be willing to be vulnerable and put yourself out there, even if it's scary, even if it's uncertain, even if you don't know if you've got the right tennis shoes, or you don't know how to do a push-up, or you don't even know what a burpee is. I didn't know what a burpee was in 2015. I really dislike them now, but I know what they are. And so Brantley Ellison, he's a coach. He's a friend of mine. He has this quote. He says it a lot. And he says it every time there's a new group of individuals joining the gym for a boot camp or a challenge. He says, you got to get comfortable being uncomfortable, because working out and trying to get fit and trying to get healthier is a very uncomfortable thing to do, especially if you've never done it before. So I'm a Brene Brown fan. I'm going to let you guys read this quote. I love that. It's about the courage to show up when you can't predict or control the outcome. And that is so true in fitness and working out. It's also so true in many of our work situations, right? We can't always control or predict what that day or week is going to look like. Certainly not when you're in the middle of crisis communications, certainly not when you're in the middle of an international pandemic and things just keep coming at you, just item after item after item, and the list gets longer and longer. But it's about the courage to show up, and even when it's hard, even when it's challenging to do that. And so JT's tips for working on your personal health, your healthy body, this is not rocket science. The left-hand side of your screen says, get up, show up, and move up. And the right side says, eat well, seek better sleep, and be consistent. The first thing you've got to do is actually get up and get out of bed. And then you got to show up. I'm now a morning exerciser. So this morning I got up at 4. I was at the gym by 4:45. I taught a 5 a.m. fitness class, and then I was home by 6:15. And so for me, that some of you are shaking your heads no. For me, that getting up and getting it out of the way in the morning, number 1, it helps set me up for my day, and it helps get my day started off early. Number 2, if my day gets rushed or busy or crazy, then I don't have to feel like a failure by the time my head hits the pillow at night, because I've gotten up early and I've gotten it out of the way. Because, you know, those of you that are working in full-time communications work know that the day can get out of control really quickly. And before you know it, you've worked really late, or you have committed yourself to finishing a project at night, or you have other commitments outside of work in the evening, whether they be family or otherwise. And so for me personally, the getting up in the morning has been a game changer, and actually showing up. And then once you get up and once you show up, even if you're working out in the afternoon, even if you're going for a walk in your neighborhood, over time, you're going to move up. So if lifting weights is your goal, you're going to move up in weight, most likely. If it's becoming more confident and moving from the back of the exercise class to the front of the exercise class, great. If it's that you're working out at home because of the pandemic, then maybe it's that you increase the intensity of your exercises. Maybe it's that that walk is 10 minutes longer than when you first started out. And so the ability to do those things is going to help set you up for success. And perhaps one of the best things for me in the last 12 months that I have done to improve my own personal health is to seek out better sleep. I'm a terrible sleeper just on a regular basis. Pre-pandemic, I was a horrible, horrible sleeper. I probably never got more than 6 hours a night. And so getting better sleep and sleeping better can absolutely contribute to your overall health and wellness. And so I would encourage you, if you're the person that says, oh, I just, I have a really hard time getting to sleep at night. That was me. So I've read, I've taken melatonin. I've done all those things to try to help with that. Trying to get more sleep, if you're sleep deprived, can certainly improve your overall health and wellness. So, becoming a healthier you doesn't have to be about losing 50 pounds, which is what I did. It could be about just developing better habits and incorporating more consistent strategies into your daily life and into your weekly life that helps to improve your overall health and wellness, because we only get this one life to live and we only get this one body to live it in. So we've got to make the most of it. And then this guy, Christopher Berglund, I'm not going to dive into these, but he's an author, he's an athlete. He has these 7 habits for a healthy mind and a healthy body. And I've talked about this on the previous slide, but that number 1 bullet, that daily physicality, just moving every day, taking the stairs instead of taking the elevator if you're going into an office. If you have a dog, walking the dog, those simple things can absolutely improve your overall health and wellness. Working out for me improves my mental health. And studies have proven that there is a direct relationship to that happening. So screenshot those tips if you would like. All right, we've talked about healthy minds. We've talked about healthy bodies. So now let's talk a little bit about healthy work and what that looks like in 2021. I really see there being 2 components to healthy work. Number 1, constantly learning, and number 2, positively contributing. And because I'm a Brené Brown fan, you get a second quote from her today. I'll let you read that one for a second. At the end of the day, at the end of the week, at the end of my life, this one life we get to live, I want to say that I contributed more than I criticized. That's one of my favorites from her. And so in our work and in the work that we do in the field of communications, that notion of constantly learning and positively contributing, those are so very important. So let's talk about constantly learning for a minute. Number 1 is the notion of lifelong learning. So whether that is participating in webinars or professional development, whether that's obtaining an additional degree or certificate or certification, just that notion of being willing to be a lifelong learner and adding to your skill set through learning is so important. And the second item actually comes from PRSA's Strategies and Tactics, an author in the June 2019 issue named Bridget Castellini. She talked about this culture of learning. And so she outlined 3 ways to build a culture of learning. The first item she outlined was let employees lead. So if you're a manager of a team, or if you often work on a team, or if you have people that report to you, or even if you have student interns from time to time, like let those people lead, help to develop their skill sets and help to foster this culture of learning by letting others lead and helping to teach and coach them through that project or item. Number two, build learning into the workflow. Make learning a habit. Make learning part of what you do, rather than just repeating the same things over and over again. Make learning a part of the process. And then number three, utilize outside resources. So Pram Central, the statewide Pram conference, other professional development seminars and tools and webinars, PRSA, all of those outside resources can be a great resource for us as communications professionals. And right now in the pandemic, I think almost all, if not all of that, is online. And so you have the ability and the access to connect into some webinars and some learning opportunities that you might not have been able to before because of financial reasons or time constraints, etc. So constantly learning is one of the things that I think contributes greatly to healthy work. And the second item is positively contributing. So three facets of positively contributing. Number one, do your best. You know, your workplace wants your best. Like, they hired you because you're good at what you do. And so putting your best foot forward is so important. Focusing on impact. Doing the work that matters, doing the work that's worth doing is so important. And number three, set and support goals. And so we can set goals all day long, right? But if we don't actually support it, if we don't actually set aside the time to work on the goal and to make progress towards the goal, then we may never achieve or realize that goal. And so we can set goals all day long. And often we set too many goals for ourselves. I know I do. And if we're not supporting those goals and working towards them, then what have we really done? Just made a list of dreams? Perhaps. And so if you're a manager of a team, and if you're in a position of management in the communications field in your company, helping to support the goals of those people that work with you is also so important. So when we talk about goals, I know that every one of you knows about SMART goals, but just a refresher if you don't, SMART goals are those goals that are specific. So it's something that you can actually state. It's not get healthy. For me, my first SMART goal when I decided to become a healthier Jenny was I'm going to commit to a 28-day fitness challenge. That was a more specific goal than I want to get healthy or I want to lose weight. Doing a 28-day challenge was more specific. It was also something I could measure. Did I actually make it from day 1 all the way through day 28? It was an achievable goal for me. You know, I didn't say right off the bat, I'm going to exercise for 365 days in a row, because that was 100% unachievable for me at that time in my life. It's unachievable for me now. I'm not a 365 day in a row workout person. But it has to be an achievable goal, something that you can actually work towards. The goal needs to also be realistic and relevant. Is it worthwhile to you? Is it something that helps you make progress to the thing or the person that you want to be? So for me, joining a 28-day challenge was absolutely relevant because it was helping me get to the next step on my health and fitness journey. And then it needs to be time bound. So a 28-day challenge, well, that's clear cut, right? The time frame was built into the goal itself. But if the goal is specific and it doesn't have a time frame attached to it, you need to attach a time frame to it, because otherwise you're just going to keep working and working and working. And how will you know if you've gotten to the finish line on it? So SMART goals, very important. And then now we come to a brief recap. We've talked about healthy minds. We've talked about social wellness. We've talked about mental wellness. We've talked about healthy bodies. We've talked about the need to get up, to show up, and to move up. And we've talked about some strategies that we can use to manage our stress and have a healthy mind and a healthy body. And then we've talked a little bit about healthy work, that notion of lifelong learning, of positively contributing. And so now you have homework. So it's time for your homework assignment. So your homework is achievable. I promise it's achievable. I've done this presentation before and people can do the homework. It's not something that there are no prerequisites, but your homework assignment. Some people some of my friends call me JT. And so I'm going to give you JT's 3 M's to positively impact your mind, body, and work. The first is mentor. The second is minutes. And the third is music. So let's dive into the 3 of those. First, mentor, professional and/or personal mentor. I'll come back to that. Number 2 is minutes. We have 1,440 minutes in each 24-hour day. And the third is music. I want you to embrace the music. So what do I mean? All right, well, here are your action items. If you don't have a mentor, a professional mentor or a personal mentor, identify and enlist one. That's what I want you to do. If you are at that stage in your career where you have been mentored or you are in a position of leadership and you have expertise, I want you to consider becoming a mentor. Seek out someone that can be your mentee that you can help support on their journey. So I want you to either find a mentor, or I want you to either be a mentor, one of the two. The second thing I want you to do, I'm pretty sure I did the math right. I want you to take a 14.4 minute personal challenge every day and start out just by seeing if you can do it for 7 days. But 14.4 minutes is 1% of your day. And so I want you to use that 14.4 minutes for yourself. It may be that you have a personal health or fitness goal and you don't have time to work out right now. You don't even have time to take a walk. Use that 14.4 minutes to do yoga or take a walk or do a high intensity exercise. If that's not your speed, if you say, I'm pretty good with my health and fitness, then use that 14.4 minutes to develop yourself in other ways. Maybe it's trying a new hobby. Maybe it's doing more reading. Maybe it's meditating or some other action that you have not set aside time for in the past. And then the third thing is music. I don't think I mentioned this earlier, but one of the reasons why I get up at 4 o'clock in the morning is that a couple days a week I teach an indoor cycling class. And so music is integral to a cycling class. And music, lots of studies have been done on the benefits of music. It has the ability to set a totally different tone for your day. It can uplift us, it can encourage us, it can inspire us, it can help to pump us up, it can help to soothe us. And so I want you to listen to music and to find ways to utilize music in your daily life in a variety of ways. So those are your 3 action items, your 3 homework assignments. Screen capture this if you need to, but I want you to either find or be a mentor. I want you to take my 14.4 minute challenge, and I want you to utilize music in a variety of ways to hopefully enhance your life. I know I've talked for quite a while, so I'm going to stop right there. And there's my contact information if you want to reach out to me. And certainly Matt or Sophie, thank you to the board, Pram Central, for having me today. Thank you all for letting me talk your ear off. And if we have a few minutes for questions, or if you guys need to move on to other things, I'll pause.
Yeah, we've got time for some questions.
Great.
Anybody have any?
Jenny, I'll go ahead and start us off here, and maybe others will actually be able to share some experiences too. I know that you and I have had this conversation about things that have helped us in 2020 to get us through. And one of the things that I've talked about is Wobot. And it was funny that you mentioned the article about the stranger exercise because Wobot actually encouraged that for me. So if you don't know about Wobot, it's an app. It's a cognitive behavioral therapy free app that anyone can use, where you just check in with this little bot, so to speak, once a day, and it'll give you challenges, just like Jenny mentioned. And one of the challenges that they did in the last 2 weeks was actually encourage you to either wave or smile to a stranger and count how many that you do for a certain amount of time, because it has been proven to lift spirits. So I just wanted to share that app is something. I'll put it in the chat here, but I would love to hear from others too. What are some things that have helped you in the past year to get through?
I think Fitbit has a feature like that too. I didn't start using Fitbit until last April, I think, when the state was under shutdown. So that's kind of helped me stay motivated with running and stuff.
Yeah, I love I'm an Apple Watch user, and I love how you can challenge other people, and you can, they have monthly challenges and they change. So the goals are different based on kind of where you are in your life and in your journey. And so those are fun. It's fun to see the notifications from people that I follow and to be able to encourage them even just by like a quick, like smiley face that I could just send back on my watch. And that's helpful. That's helpful for me to receive those types of encouraging messages.
This is one question that a member put in the chat. It could be for you, Jenny, or for anybody, but how safe do you feel about going to the gym right now?
Okay, so I'll start off with the answers to this one. I have a lot of anxiety about it, to be honest with you, even now. Our gym, of course, shut down last spring, as most non-essential businesses, did shut down, and the gym was closed for quite some time. And then when the gym was able to reopen, of course, new signage, new cleaning protocols, encouraging people to have healthy habits and take preventative measures. And so I actually, just full disclosure, in the fall, I contracted COVID around Thanksgiving timeframe. And of course, isolated at home and was sick. And I after that, I took about a 2.5 month break just from the gym period, just because I just had a lot of personal anxiety about being around a lot of people, and in a way that, like, I didn't have to. Going to the gym wasn't like going to my job. I wasn't. It wasn't a requirement. And so it is challenging, and I think now it's just balancing taking personal precautions and keeping my distance from people as best as I can, and just limiting, really kind of being careful and limiting how much time I spend there. Like, I don't socialize. I come in, I do my workout, and then I leave.
I think your presentation probably covers this, but I know that a lot of us have very different work environments right now. Some of us are in the office full time, and some of us are still working from home. And I think one of the things I've had a challenge with over the past year is how to, I suppose, reach those coworkers who are struggling with the social distancing and that sort of thing. So yeah, I guess my question is, if like, it's a little easier for me because I am in the office, but for those folks who are at home, I mean, do you think most of these principles apply to folks who are working or teleworking, using these social tools to keep those relationships going?
I certainly do. I still think it is hard. I worked from home for quite a bit of 2020. I still think it is hard to feel connected. And I don't know how others feel about that. Those of you that are working from home, even like it is still hard to feel fully connected. Was my experience working from home. I think now that, so I'm back in the office, I'm in my office today. Being in the office, it does give you more of a routine, right? You're kind of back into your pre-pandemic routine, so to speak, of like getting up and doing the things you would do pre-work, and then making your commute, and like taking your coffee in the car and trying not to spill it on yourself. Like those things almost add a sense of normalcy. But I'm still not having in-person meetings at work, so all of my meetings are still virtually. I don't know if others want to chime in with your own experiences.
So I'll say for myself that I have been working from home since March, and continuing to work from home. And I imagine we probably will for a good while still. And like Jenny said, Marco Polo has been a great app for me to connect with my friends. And like Jenny said, there's less pressure because you kind of send the video and people can watch it at their leisure and then catch up with you. And so to me, that has been important. And also, where I live in my neighborhood, a lot of my friends live close, so we can see each other kind of in a socially distanced walk, and those connections have been super important to keep up, because it has been hard, because now my husband is my coworker, and sometimes that can be hard too.
I know.
You're. Go ahead, Jenny.
My husband was my coworker for most of 2022, and I love him. I think he's great. I love to spend time with him. He's my best friend. But at some point, when you see him and only him for 7 days, like I just had to take a walk a few times.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Go ahead. Somebody was going to chime in. Maybe not. One thing I was wondering is if you, Jenny, or if anybody else has developed any tips or best practices for virtual meetings over the past year. Anything that you discovered works well in keeping things, feeling more personal and more natural.
When we have team meetings with our full office, University Communications, certainly when people were working remotely, there was often an introduction of pets. We had a variety of dogs and cats that made their appearance. And so it kind of became fun to like check in on like, okay, who's with us today? Is it Louie? Is it Lewis? Is it like, who's with us? And so there was like, I mean, it was basically like a dog show or a kitten parade in our staff meetings, just to kind of break the ice. And yeah, and you kind of get to know people a little bit more when you see their personalities of their pets.
Well, any more questions, folks? Any more personal experiences about the distance working and virtual meetings? Sandy made a mention about the that viral cat filter that the judge had during that Zoom meeting a week or so ago.
Yeah, I have not found a lot of success in using the Zoom filters. Even when I blur the background, I feel like part of my head is chopped off, or it just always feels weird. So I
was just about to say that. That's one thing I've learned, is that the virtual backgrounds are kind of fun at first, but they lose their novelty really quickly. Because you're right, your head's getting cut off and there's stuff coming in and out of the background.
Yeah, I do think it is very it's very good to acknowledge the Zoom fatigue. You know, I know we're on Zoom right now, and that's a way to connect with your other PRAM members and to do your professional development now in the pandemic. But you know, I'm on Zoom, I'm on Cisco WebEx, I'm on FaceTime, I'm on Microsoft Teams. And so when you start to juggle all of those platforms, it can be a lot too, to just try, you know, switching back and forth in between those. And so just the learning curve of some of the platforms, you know, we've all adapted to that technology, the increase in the use of technology in our jobs really well. But I don't think we should diminish that we quickly shifted in the last year to using a lot of online tools to do our work and to do that effectively. And so kudos to all of you for that.
This is Liz. Yeah, I don't have my video on because I don't like having my video on. So I'm here though. I'm like one of those lurking people. But anyway, this is Liz Dinsmore, Jenny. This has been so great. But that's kind of like how I've struggled. So I'm just going to tell you all my struggles. I don't have any questions. I just want to tell you all my struggles. I have struggled so much with like you were saying, all the technology. I mean, we have remote employees that, you know, we've had remote employees for years that work all over the country. So I'm very used to doing, you know, the Teams meetings. And it's almost like with our remote employees, it's like, I don't know, it's kind of normal just to do, but it's just the whole like, okay, now we're doing this Teams meeting, but then somebody's texting me and somebody's emailing me and somebody's messaging me while we're doing the Teams meeting, and somebody's, you know, trying to like Facebook message me and message me. It's just like, oh my gosh, I don't know how. I don't know how to do it. Like I have struggled so much, and it's been such a huge frustration. And it's just been so hard to stay on task. I mean, there have been days when I have literally been like, okay, to my poor colleagues here at my office, I've been like, okay, y'all, I'm gonna have to turn y'all off. I'm turning everything off. I gotta turn off my text. I gotta turn off everything just to get like one thing done. It's just been such a struggle.
Yeah, you know, what I have found is that the increase in virtual meetings and chats they've gone way up, and the number of phone calls I receive have gone way down.
Yes.
And I don't know if that's been a similar experience of you all, but it's actually kind of been nice, like to not have my phone ring a whole lot.
That part is nice. I like that. I mean, mine still rings and it just chimes on in with all the other dings and things that are going off constantly. Yeah. You know, but it doesn't ring as much. You're right. It's more the dings and messaging.
Yeah, I think Liz, that's a very good point. You know, it is easy to feel very distracted and like you have 65 things going on. One strategy a lot of people use is time blocking, and to try to block off certain segments of time and mark that as busy time to work on to work on projects. Yeah. And that be like uninterruptible time. So, you know, on Teams, if you have stuff scheduled through Outlook, it's good about saying that you're busy. You can also automatically set it to busy. Zoom, you can change your availability there as well. And so I think those are things that I have used those as well. If I have a looming deadline or something that's pending, even if it's not a meeting on my calendar, I will schedule that time off on my calendar so that I can focus a bit more.
That's a great suggestion. I'm going to do that. I need to do that. I don't know why I haven't thought of that. I think I've been so busy answering messages and stuff. I haven't been able to think of that myself. Yes, I'm going to do that.
Liz, you might want to consider honoring your days back when you were actually on camera and get you one of those on-air signs for your door and just go, this is the do not interrupt time. Our managing partner has one of those. He has a bachelor's in broadcasting. And that's his, literally, you cannot open this door. I don't care how important your topic is at the moment. Like, this is a do not come in. And it's been pretty fun around the office here to have a new joke, tradition kind of way of operating and how we communicate.
I have to connect to that.
One
I need one of those
survival that I
too.
found is going retro, and I'm going back to writing my stuff in a dot journal. I mean, I do keep up with all the digital calendars and stuff like that, but if I write something down, I'm a lot more likely to remember it and internalize it, and it really helps me.
You can't see me, Bill, but I am nodding my head profusely because I have done the same thing. It's like I used to have this electronic calendar, and ever since, for pretty much the past 6 months at least, I have had to go to writing it down. I have these notebooks. I have like tons of notebooks that I've filled up writing all this stuff down. It's just like, if I don't write it down now, it's just, I don't know where it goes. And I used to be all electronic, and now I've gone old school. That's exactly how I've been. That's the only thing that keeps me straight these days.
I'm not a huge fan of having my camera on, but a few months ago, the boss kind of issued a decree that we had to have cameras on in meetings to kind of keep us accountable. And the huge benefit, Liz, is that having your camera on kind of forces you to pay attention and be less distracted.
Yeah, I know. And you would think that since, I used to be on camera every day, that like I would be cool with it, but I don't know what's happened to me. It's just like, I'm like, okay, I don't want them to see me while I like am typing this thing real quick.
Well, it makes you stop and think, how important is it to send that text right then?
Yeah, that's true. That's true, Matt. And normally I do have my picture at least, but I don't know. I kept trying to log into Facebook. It wasn't working anyway.
Oh, it's okay.
Sorry about that.
We're getting short on time. Does anybody have any more questions for Jenny? Jenny, we really appreciate it. And that was definitely a presentation we needed to hear right now.
Well, thank you.
Sophie may have asked this, but would it be possible for us to share your slide deck or post it on our Facebook page?
Yeah, sure. That'd be fine. I will shoot it over to Sophie, and then that way y'all can distribute that to the membership. Thank y'all again for having me. I very much enjoyed spending the noonday time with you today. I also just caught up on the chat, and so I'm gonna look into Sandy, the Pacer Adventure Challenges, and the Waybot that Sophie has talked about is a great tool. Patrice, I still hate a burpee, and I'll never like it, but they work. And I just really, really enjoyed being with you all today. Thank you for having me. And if I'm ever in the Jackson area on a Pram Central day, I will do my best to drop in.
Please do. Sophie, you were going to say something, weren't you?
I don't have anything else, but just want to say thank you to Jenny. Thank you for being our speaker today, and we really appreciate it.
Can I jump in? Yeah, thank you.
Jean.
I didn't want anyone to leave because I wanted to acknowledge the new members, because I see there are a couple here too, and I'm sorry I was late to the meeting. Were you about to hand it over to me, Matt?
Yes, I was.
Okay, great. So I'm happy to report we have 4 new members who've joined since our last monthly meeting, and I see 2 of them here. Will Brown, if you want to wave, from Mansell Media, and Elshri Dean, if you want to say hello. I see your name, or if you want to show your face. If you, oh, there she is. Oh, hey. Okay. From the Jackson Municipal Airport Authority. And also Christopher Mims joined from the American Heart Association. I don't think he's here with us. He's rejoined. And we have a new student member, Caitlin Duggar from Mississippi College. So we're so excited. People are continuing to join and grow our membership, and we get to know new people, which we love. And for those of you who have been members, I'm proud to report that 58% of our members have renewed so far for the year, where our goal is to get closer to 70, well, really 100%, but we want to get everybody renewed by at least our May state conference. And just wanted to remind those of you who are on this meeting, if you haven't yet renewed, one of the benefits is the ability to enter your work into the Pram, Prisms, and the Lantern Awards with SPURF. And I hope everyone saw the deadline, that the awards deadline for Pram Prisms, the early bird is Sunday, and the main deadline is March 21st. So I just wanted to encourage people to enter your great work so you can get acknowledged, and also renew if you haven't done so already.
Thank you, Jean. And one last thing. Over the past few weeks, me and the other board members have looked at what our 2020 chapter goals were and revised them and added to them. And we just this morning approved the final 2021 chapter goals. I just uploaded the PDF into the chat, and Chantel also posted them on the Pram Central website. And so I was happy to hear Jenny give us the refresher on the SMART goals, because these are all very measurable and SMART 2021 goals. So, and they're pretty detailed too. So when you get a minute, please check that out. We are going to stay on track with these goals by updating them every quarter for the quarterly Pram State board meeting. And then we'll do a year-end report to see how we did on our goals. And I think that's it. Unless anybody has anything else, our next chapter meeting is Wednesday, March 24th. And I hope everybody has a great rest of the week. And we'll make Jenny's presentation as well as the video for this, this Zoom meeting available on our YouTube channel and Facebook page. All right. All right. Well, y'all have a great day. Thanks again, Jenny.
Thank you. Bye, y'all.